Hello everyone, it is Veronica, the Critical Fangirl, and a couple things. One, happy Pride Month. Two, I'm not in my usual backdrop. Long story short, the light bulb above my backdrop basically decided, I'ma head out. So until I get that fixed, which will be very soon, I'm going to be filming here. And three, I'm doing something kind of different. I saw a lot of movies these past couple months, so I decided to kind of rip off Chris Stuckman's QMR, but not plagiarize it, and kind of just review all the movies that I saw from my least favorite, which I didn't necessarily hate, I just liked them the least compared to my absolute favorites, which were just holy shit. So I'm going to be reviewing these movies from, like I said, least favorite to most favorable, starting with Cruella. So Cruella was okay. It actually is probably the most surprising movie that I saw this year. For one, I was not a fan of Maleficent, and I'm not a fan of a lot of the other Disney live-action movies. I did not like the live-action Beauty and the Beast, and I absolutely hated the live-action Aladdin with every fiber of my body. But Cruella was actually kind of good. It's not perfect. There are some flaws. For one, the CGI is not finished in some scenes. Two, there are some characters in it that I won't spoil that are kind of obvious winks and callbacks to the original 101 Dalmatians. And also, the movie runs a bit too long. It could have had shaved off a few 30 minutes. But the direction from, I forget the director's name, I'll put it right here, the director of I, Tonya, it was really well done. Also, I really loved Emma Stone and Emma Thompson's performances. I love the fashion design, the soundtrack, the time era. It just worked. And for that, it was a very enjoyable time that wasn't perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna give Cruella a B. Next up is Raya and the Last Dragon, which I liked. I don't know. Okay, so a couple things. One, the animation is gorgeous. The fight choreography is stunning. And three, I loved the third act of this movie. But if it wasn't for that third act, I probably would have given this movie like 3 stars. But I did give it another half a point for that final act. But the first 2 acts of this movie, they were rushed and not to mention repetitive. Raya and the dragon go to an island. They meet someone who can be a part of their party after some shenanigans happen. They go to another island, rinse and repeat until the third act. But I will say this. During my time watching this movie, while I did enjoy it for what it was, thought it was a cute enough movie, I would love to see a Raya and the Last Dragon TV show. That would have been perfect. But me personally, I felt like, this could be good, like, pilot for a TV show. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but I do still recommend it because it is still enjoyable for what it is. I'm going to give Raya and the Last Dragon a B. Next up is probably the second most fun I had with the movie, and that is Psycho Goreman. I recently saw this movie with my boyfriend, and what's a good way I can describe this movie? Imagine if Kevin Smith directed Power Rangers. Pretty sure he would make something similar to Psycho Goreman. This is about a intergalactic overlord who comes to Earth and ends up being under the control of a sociopathic 11-year-old. That's literally the plot of this movie, and it runs to the hills with it. It is so fun. The gore and practical effects are amazing, even though most of it, these like shitty rubber suits. Well, not shitty, but you can tell they're very cheesy, but it's kind of, again, in that endearing Power Rangers kind of way. It's so nostalgic that anyone who loved Turbo Kid will absolutely love this movie, like I did. And the music was great. It was so funny. The humor is great. It's very mean-spirited humor, but in a good way. So if you like any of those things, check out Psycho Goreman. I think it's on Shudder. I'll probably correct myself in the comments or in this video if I'm wrong, but overall, I do recommend Psycho Goreman. I'm giving it a B+. Next up is A Quiet Place Part 2. This is a movie that I will admit has flaws, like let's see, a character that makes so many dumb decisions you want to literally yell at him, an ending that is very similar to the first one, and also, what else? Yeah, it turns out that's really all the flaws I have with this movie. Other than that, this is a really good follow-up, and I am really excited for the third movie. I loved Emily Blunt, I loved Cillian Murphy, or Cillian Murphy, however you pronounce his name. The girl who plays Reagan, I'm really excited to see more of what she does in this movie, kind of as like the protagonist, like the real protagonist of the film. There were a few moments in this movie that actually almost made me scream, and I love the sound design, and I love the design of the monsters and such. If you enjoyed Quiet Place Part 1, you will love A Quiet Place Part 2, and I'm really excited to see where they end this off at. I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a B+. Next up is the first out of the movies that I actually gave a heart to on Letterboxd, and for damn good reason. Well, actually, no, this is technically the third because I already talked about Quiet Place Part 2 second form. Anyways, point is, we're talking about In the Heights. This was a movie that I really needed to see because, as I explained on my TikTok, I recently experienced a family tragedy. So I was visiting my hometown for that, and afterwards I needed to just escape. I needed to watch something that could help me escape that was very lighthearted, so me and my friend went to go see In the Heights, and as soon as the first musical number came on, I was hooked, and I forgot all my worries. I fucking love this movie. I loved the acting from everyone. I loved the characters. Like, I loved Sunny, Usnavi, Abuela, which Abuela will steal your heart. Like, seriously, she is one of two grandmas in this movie that will just capture your heart because they are just such beautiful women and they are so cute and funny and lighthearted. They will absolutely capture your heart. I loved the Salon Girls, which, by the way, the Salon Girls have a number called No Me Diga that is so fun and so well written, so funny. And speaking of musical numbers, and since I already talked about Abuela, the Patience and Faith musical number, yeah, you're gonna need to get some tissues for this one. This movie was heartwarming, it was funny, it was energetic. I love the musical numbers. My favorite one is probably, aside from No Me Diga, is probably the 96,000 musical number. And I love this movie so much, and I love the song so much. I have been listening to the soundtrack, the original Broadway soundtrack, on a motherfucking loop. I cannot wait to see this movie again. I'm really mad that I didn't get to see this in IMAX, though I was able to see Quiet Place Part 2 in IMAX, which, yeah, that kind of evens out. But overall, I do recommend In the Heights, especially if you are like me and are a Hamilton fan. I'm going to give In the Heights an A-. Now we're getting to the top three. My third to last movie on this list is Those Who Wish Me Dead, directed by Taylor Sheridan, starring Angelina Jolie, Jon Bernthal, Nicholas Hoult, and tells the story of a survivalist expert in Montana who finds a kid who is being hunted down by assassins and must protect him at all costs. Yes, this does kind of go off of the 90s action thrillers, and also sort of to an extent the 90s disaster movies, since this movie also has a forest fire at the center of the plot. But I really enjoyed this movie. I loved Angelina Jolie's performance in this movie, and I'm really kind of excited to see if this means she's gonna go back to her action movie routes with stuff like Tomb Raider and Mr. and Mrs. Smith from like way back in the day. I loved the kid, actually. The kid acting was great, which usually like a kid in this kind of role, you'd be like, oh man, he's gonna be annoying the whole way through. He wasn't. He actually gave a great performance. Jon Bernthal gave a good performance, although I kind of thought he was Paul Rudd at first, but he's not. And I really liked the ending. It was kind of like optimistic but bittersweet, and kind of made you think like things could go good for them, but maybe not. I'm trying my best not to spoil this movie, but overall I do highly recommend this movie. This is one of the most underrated movies of the entire year, and I'm going to give Those Who Wish Me Dead an A. Now, Army of the Dead was probably the most fun I've had in a movie in a long time. For one, I loved the opening scene of this movie. That is to Viva Las Vegas. It's really well done. Number 2, I loved the simple story of these mercenaries going to a zombie-infested Las Vegas to commit this heist. I thought that was really cool. It was funny. I had a big grin on my face the entire time, seeing it in the Alamo Drafthouse with a crowd of people who were laughing and gasping and crying. It was so good. It was such a great theater experience. I love Valentine the Tiger. There are flaws I have with it, sure. I mean, for one, it did not need to be 2.5 hours long. 2, half the characters in it go just to die. That's literally what they're there for. And number 3, there are a few autofocus scenes because Zack Snyder shot it with a ton of autofocus, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but I love what they did with the world, how like there's like the dumb slow zombies, the feral fast zombies, and then like smart zombies that ride zombie horses and have zombie tigers. It was such an entertaining movie that did a cool stuff with the zombie mythos. I love Bautista. I loved the way they kind of CGI'd Tig Notaro in there because I like Tig Notaro. I loved the comedy. I loved the action scenes, the practical gore. It was such a fun time, and I'm not opposed to a sequel, so I'm going to give Army of the Dead an A. And finally, we get to what is possibly my favorite movie of 2021 so far, and that is Lee Isaac Chung's masterpiece, Minari, or Minari. Either way, it's such a beautiful movie, yet it's so simple. It's just about this Korean family who moved from California to Arkansas to make a farm. The grandmother comes to visit. Yet that's what makes it so good, is because it's so simple. For people who loved The Farewell, you are going to love this movie. Steven Yeun was great in this movie, as well as the now Oscar-winning Yoo Jung-young, who was so good as the grandmother. She was so funny and cute, and you just loved her character. And this movie is so lighthearted and funny until it gets to the second act and it becomes much more dramatic, which it isn't such a sharp turn because there are dramatic moments in the first 2 acts. The third act does fit into the movie, but that's what makes it so good. And the ending is so beautifully poetic and bittersweet, and I absolutely loved it, like all of the acting in it, and I loved Lee Isaac Chung's direction. I loved the setting, I loved the writing, how this movie deals with culture shock, yet it doesn't come off as very preachy, the same way with its themes about religion. More people need to see this movie, and there is a reason why it was nominated for Best Picture and why it's won so many Oscars, or was nominated for so many Oscars anyway. I think it only won like a couple. But either way, please watch Minari because it is so worth it. It's on DVD and Blu-ray right now, so please support this movie. I'm going to give Minari my highest grade of an A+. More people need to see Minari for good fucking reason because it is that good. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and if you like this video, if you like my channel, like, subscribe, and ring my bell. Okay, I'll stop. But seriously guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. I know I talked about Minari, and like that came out in March, and I'm talking about movies I saw in the summer, but Minari was still playing in May at the art house theater near me, so I kind of slipped it in there. Plus, more people need to see Minari because it's that fucking good. And I really am excited to make more videos. They will be a bit delayed because I recently got a new job, but I will be making videos as much as I can. And there are a few other movies that I really loved this year, like Judas and the Black Messiah, the Demon Slayer movie, Max Reload, but that was in 2020. And overall, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, like, subscribe, ring my bell, and I will be making some more videos, including that evolution of my channel one, so stay tuned for that, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.